So you're not just like fucking.
No, I'm not fucking with
Honestly.
you. Mike, I'm telling you, your money.
You're so fucking money.
All right, I want you to go over to that girl and I want you to get those digits.
Your money.
Come here a second. Listen to me. Now look it. When you go up to talk to her, man, I don't want you to be the guy in the PG-13 movie everyone's really hoping makes it happen. I want you to be like the guy in the rated R movie, you know? The guy you're not sure whether or not you like yet. You're not sure where he's coming from, okay? You're a bad man. You're a bad man. You're a bad man.
What about the toe?
Forget about the fucking toe!
Hey! This is my rifle. There are many like it, but this one is mine.
We had 2 bags of grass, 75 pellets of mescaline, 5 sheets of high-powered powder acid.
I have 2 guns, 1 for each of you.
Loud noises!
But I'm funny how? I mean, funny like I'm a clown, I amuse you. I make you laugh. I'm here to fucking amuse you. What do you mean funny? Funny how? How am I funny?
You could trouble me for a warm glass of shut the hell up.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I break your concentration?
I feel good today, Soundbar. We're gonna make some money.
Hey, Smokey back here taking a shit. Eval. Well, I ain't gonna tell nobody else.
The first rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club.
I gotta be crazy. I'm on a pilgrimage to see a moose. Praise Marty Moose! Holy shit!
Dad, you want to ask her something?
Don't touch!
In a world surrounded by movie podcasts, 3 men will risk it all to try to stand out from the herd. It's the Cinema 9 podcast with your host, Michael Govier, and featuring Travis Roy and Eric Brandstrom. Coming to a speaker near you right now.
Hey, guess who it is, everybody? It's your favorite podcast you've never heard before. I'm Michael Govier. I'm here with Travis Roy and Eric Brandstrom, and this is the Cinema 9 podcast. Welcome to our show. It's about movies, a slice of life, and, mostly about movies. So I'm Michael Govier. Let's introduce our wonderful co-host. We're all a part of this equally. It's all about democracy. Travis Roy, how you doing?
Hey, good. How are you doing today, Michael?
Oh, thanks. That's very nice. You're a sweet man.
I appreciate that. I guess I should do like a formal introduction of myself.
Sure.
I am Travis Roy. I am in Philadelphia. I'm a PhD candidate in American history with a focus on environmental and cultural history. And I went to film school long enough to learn that I did not want to make movies.
Wow. What's your favorite movie this week?
I'm going to save it for my suggestion at the end if we have time to get around to it. But
okay.
But I do have one in mind.
What was the best movie you saw last year?
Best movie I saw last year? I will say that my favorite movie from last year at this point would be Waves.
Oh, yeah. I got to watch that. That's on my list. Okay.
Man, it's really powerful.
Wow. That's a ringing endorsement, folks. All right.
It's beautiful. Waves. It's visually beautiful.
Ooh. Okay, then there's Eric E. Albert Brandstrom. Eric, how's it going, buddy? What's cooking?
Hi, Mike and Travis. I'm so happy to be on the Cinema 9 podcast. And we're going to have a lot of fun. We're going to talk about movies, actors, directors, editors, composers, all things filmmaking, talk about some of your favorite movies, and going to have a blast. I'm really excited.
Are you going to cry on the podcast?
I'm very emotional. I get really nostalgic and sentimental. So if I cry, I won't be embarrassed. I'll look forward to it.
No shame. There should be no shame.
What about you, Eric? What was the best film, in your opinion, of 2019?
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was the best film I saw. In terms of my personal favorite, I think Joker is one I'll watch more times. But I really enjoy those 2 films, among others. So, yeah.
Wow. Joker?
Yeah,
rewatchable?
Well, I love the Batman universe. And I really like the way they made that film. I'll be returning to it many times.
Okay. Wow. Well, I think we had a secret podcast. It was kind of maybe an impetus for this show. We talked about the Joker at our little secret gathering called The Feast. We did a podcast about the Joker, which was actually pretty good, but the audio was terrible, so we'll never be able to share it with all of you.
Maybe
but
not that.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I find that it was not that enjoyable as a rewatchable film. I watched it again, but you know, that is not what this show's about. I just find that interesting. Interesting choice, Eric Brandstrom. So we are the Cinema 9 podcast. Eric, why are we called the Cinema 9 podcast?
Well, remember like when you were like a kid and like there's like the local movie theater like in your neighborhood? It was always like, you know, if it was like a one screen theater, it was just like, you know, the movie theater, like Howell movie theater where we grew up, remember? But like sometimes you'd have like a multiplex, but they'd have no more than like 6 to 9 films. And I always used to remember like Cinema 9, you know, Brighton Cinema 9. And I thought that was a nice, pleasing name. So that's what we're going to be called. We're going to be talking a lot about like old movies we grew up with. So I thought that paired pretty nicely.
Travis, do you remember this is tough. I don't know. Do you remember the first film you saw at the Brighton Cinema 9? Can you recall?
Great question.
At the Brighton Cinema 9.
You can think about it if you want, because I remember what I saw.
I don't remember the first. I mean, I remember the earliest one I remember off the top of my head seeing was Independence Day, and someone ruined it coming out of the theater. Like I was in line, and they like said the ending as I was standing there.
What a bummer for you, dude.
But I know that even then that was like by far not the first time I was there. I know I saw Spawn the movie there too. So we're talking like 93. Maybe I can't remember what year exactly it opened though.
Wow.
Eric, what about you?
Ernest Saves Christmas, 1987. Right when I moved to Brighton from Livonia, Michigan. Ernest Saves Christmas.
Wow.
That's how long that theater was there?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
My first viewing was when I moved to Brighton in 1990. We saw Arachnophobia, John Goodman and Jeff Daniels.
Wow.
And we were like 10 of us. It was a family outing. It was, I don't like that movie. It makes me uncomfortable, but we saw it. I was 10 years old. So, yeah. We are, by the way, as we just mentioned, the Cinema 9 podcast. So you can find us on all your favorite social media spots, right? Like Twitter and Facebook. And we have an email. We would love, and I stress this, guys, it does matter. If we can have some kind of participation from the audience with emails talking about their favorite films, comments on films we've never seen even, we would love to get that, wouldn't we?
Yes.
We'd love to implement like we could do like a mailbag at the end of the episode and address your viewer feedback and questions.
That was so funny. I'm going to direct my questions to individuals instead of just throwing things out there. Hey, everybody speak at once. 3, 2, 1, go. No, I think that a show is only as good as the people who are engaged in it. So we would really love feedback. I know it's our first episode, so it's early, but we would love to get you to send information. So hook us up. Cinema9pod. That's the number 9. Cinema9pod at protonmail.com is our email. And then you can find Cinema 9 on all the standard social media trash sites like Twitter, Facebook, and we don't have an Instagram yet, do we?
No.
We're not very attractive looking, so I don't know if we really care about photos, but
we can put photos of other people.
Movies are a visual medium, so we probably should have an Instagram. We'll get on that. All right. So let's kick it off then. Let's get into the show. We have several ideas we're floating around for a format. We may not stick to one format, but we do have several concepts and segments we're going to probably be offering. So the first one in this episode is great performances in terrible films. Now, because a film is terrible like Showgirls doesn't mean that Kyle MacLachlan was really good in it. Now, that's not a real example. I'm just giving you an example of a bad movie with maybe your opinion on a good But let's start off with you. Travis, do you have a great performance in a terrible film?
I was hoping you'd start with Eric, but that's okay. I do have that's okay. I do have one readily in mind. The reason I thought it might be better to start with Eric though is because like I'm already breaking the rules because there's not a lot of terrible movies, I don't think, personally. Call me indiscriminating. There's movies I think are like not as good as others, but it's really rare. I mean, it has to be like Happening bad. It has to be like The Pest bad. Like it takes
you and Eric and you two are very different. Yeah, you guys have a very different philosophy on what movies are, like if they're bad or good. Or if you're Eric is very much a critic, and you seem to be more of like you just love film. You love movies.
I love movies. So instead of coming at with a great performance and a terrible film, I have a great performance that transcends the film that it's in, and that is Christina Applegate in Anchorman. I've always liked Christina Applegate, but like she's on a completely different level than everybody else in that movie. And again, it's not a terrible movie. I love Anchorman. It's hilarious. But like for all the comedy, goofy wildness is going on, there's like this really grounded, emotional, like intimate performance that's coming out of Christina Applegate this whole time. Like sometimes when I'm watching the movie, I'm like, what movie are you even in? Because you're fucking like almost like you're like doing like Academy Award level shit practically here. And for years I was like, give this woman a great vehicle because she has like such good chops and just wasn't really getting the work. And then that what's that new show that she's on Netflix? I can't think of the name of it. Dying Dead. Shit, I watched it. It's really good. At any rate, it's a great show. And,
too many shows. There's too many shows.
Too much in my brain. But it's her newest show. It's on Netflix. The word "dead" is somewhere in the title, and it's really, really good. Nice dramatic comedy and good opportunity for her.
Wow, Eric, what do you think of that? What's your response to that?
I've always loved Christina Applegate. She won a Emmy for her supporting turn on Friends, and what I like about her is she does what all the great comedians do. She treats the comedy as if it were drama. So she's totally invested in the character. She's not acting goofy. She's selling it with her chops. So yeah, I've always been a fan. Never really stopped during Anchorman to think about, her like performance, but I absolutely will take more notice next time because she's a team player.
Yeah, you made a really good point there about her dramatic, like because her performance makes me think of Leslie Nielsen in Airplane, like where it's just like we're very true, like good dramatic actor, like given more than is necessary to be there.
Wow, Christina Applegate. What about she was amazing in Married with Children? I mean, she transcended TV on that show, right?
I think that she's I always thought that she was like a diamond in the rough that just needed like the right material, and for the show, for the life of me I can't remember the name of. I do recommend it despite the fact that it's not coming to me.
Yeah, it's funny she started on such a trash TV show, which was on for like 11 years. I mean, say what you will, Married with Children was on a long time, and there are a lot of people that like that show. And she was initially treated as like a bimbo type, but really she was playing the role quite well. I know it sounds crazy to think about, but she did a good job on that show because that's not who she really is. As far as I don't know her personally, I've never had dinner with Christina, but I thought that was. I would like to as well. Okay, Christina Applegate transcends Anchorman. That is, man, I got to think about that one. That is really something I was not expecting. Very cool, Travis. Eye opener. What about you, Eric? Who so good in something so bad?
I've got 3 picks.
All right.
The first one is a movie I just saw like 2 years ago, and it's one of those that I always just missed, and then I finally sat down and watched it on Netflix. Footloose. Have you guys seen this movie?
I've actually never sat through Footloose. I'm not kidding.
This movie is so dumb. But John Lithgow is so good in it.
Wow.
It's like the pissed off dad and like local like preacher who is out to get these teenagers for dancing. I can't stress it highly enough. This plot is so dumb. But John Lithgow, the always reliable character actor, is so good and powerful in it, and especially in his last speech in the church, I had goosebumps. And we're talking about Footloose here.
That's a great call. John Lithgow is always good in most anything. I never watched Third Rock from the Sun, but I'm sure he was hamming it up. Yeah,
it's so good.
Wow.
Yeah. Also, the Brian De Palma film. If you haven't seen it recently, watch it again because it's not very good. Raising Cain. It's not really that good, but John Lithgow is so awesome in it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think he plays it under the radar, and but it's interesting. My next one is I never saw Ricochet. My next one is the 2003 film Hulk by Ang Lee.
Oh, good.
Not a really good film.
No.
When it's all said and done, it's just not that good. But the legendary actor Nick Nolte is so awesome in it. Remember?
Yeah.
No.
I do. He was good at it. He was
I
good
remember
at it.
another watch because especially in that last scene, like when they got the Hulk all chained up and like Nick Nolte's trying to piss them all off, they're getting into the father-son stuff. It's Oscar caliber acting in a really shitty movie from 2003. And then finally, Bad Lieutenant, Port of Call, New Orleans. Horrible film, but Nicolas Cage is so awesome in it. That's it.
All right.
Wow. Those are some quality choices.
We do this segment again.
Yeah.
I mean, John Lithgow is always a great actor, so like that, I think that makes sense. And Nick Nolte is not always a great actor, but he's capable of doing really good stuff.
Wow, yeah.
I think he's a good actor. I wouldn't put him on the same level as Lithgow or Applegate, personally.
Wow.
Yeah, I went there. I said it. I mean, he's kind of one note.
Wow.
Is there a lot of Affliction is the first thing that comes to my head as being the best work of his career, but like, I mean, think about it. Like, is there a lot of variety? I mean, I'm not saying he's bad, but like usually he's pretty much just playing Nick Nolte, you know.
Watch him in the Prince of Tides. He's soulful and tender, and
no, that's good. Again, like he's a good actor. I just wouldn't put him as. I don't think it's the versatility or the depth of Lithgow or Applegate for that matter.
Okay.
What was do you guys remember? There was a Jimmy Brooks movie in like the mid '90s that he was in with like
Jimmy.
this. Yeah, Jimmy Brooks. We're close.
Jimmy.
Yeah. I can't remember the name of it right now. It's escaping me. But he was actually really good in that. He plays like this guy who's the father of this little daughter. He's a single dad, and I thought he played
Curly
it quite
Sue.
well. It does sound like Curly Sue, doesn't it? I love Trouble. Jesus, 48 hours, another 48 hours.
Was that what it was?
No, that's not what it is. But it was something. Yeah, it's a deep cut. But anyways, he really hit me. That was back in the 90s. I haven't seen that movie in about 20 years. That's actually not a bad.
Does it hold up?
Bad suggestion. I'd have to know. Yeah, I'd have to watch that again to find out if it does hold up. I'll look into that. But point being is Nick Nolte, I think, is a great actor.
Thin Red Line, he's unbelievable in that movie. I mean, unbelievable.
I have spoken.
I have spoken. He's really good as I have spoken. That's great. Wow. These are interesting choices.
I had one more. It's not like a bad movie. It's just it's not as good as it should have been. Flawless, because Philip Seymour Hoffman is so amazing in it, but I don't think the movie's that good.
Both him and De Niro are both really good in that movie.
Yeah.
The problem is the plot, and Chris Bauer is in there. He does really well too. Like there's good actors in that movie. The problem is it's Joel Schumacher. I think is. I don't think he's ever been a particularly capable filmmaker in my opinion.
Lost Boys. That was a fluke.
Hey, he's got his moments. Don't get me wrong.
Flatliners.
Falling down.
It's been a long time.
Falling down. Yeah. See, that's the anomaly.
That's one that we got to see if it holds up.
And that's
cool. Just I don't know if it's the script or the direction or what, but just kind of a lost opportunity with that type of talent involved.
I found the movie, by the way. It's called "I'll Do Anything." It's written and directed by It's written and directed by James L. Brooks. It's like a full-on film, completely done.
I saw it.
You've seen it?
Yeah, I remember seeing it back in the day. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's got him and this like no-name lead female actress who I don't know. She has a face. You'd be like, oh, I recognize her, but
she has a face.
That sounds terrible. Anyways, yeah, he's good in that movie, but that wasn't going to be my choice. So
I'll do anything.
Wow. Interesting choice. I love this showdown. This is quite a battle. I got to say, if I have to choose, and this is going to sound really difficult to defend, my choice is, as I told you, it's Willem Dafoe. Willem Dafoe in Body of Evidence. Body of Evidence is horrendous. It's so bad. Body of Evidence is a god-awful film. I watched it. I actually sat and watched it last week because I wanted to make sure that I could speak freely and accurately about this film. It's really
back
bad.
Up this outrageous advisement.
He's just so good in it. He's being a real actor playing thoughtful role because he's a lawyer trying to defend his client, but take no shit. He's doing that well. He's just got to sit in this Basic Instinct. It's trying to match Basic Instinct because it came out in 93, right after Basic Instinct came out. It's obviously, hey, we want to have a Basic Instinct because it was popular. But it's no Basic Instinct at all. All it is the sex and somebody who might be killing someone. A white woman is accused of murder. Did she do it? The guy was rich. It's just so lame. But he's really acting in it. He's struggling with the inner turmoil of, is this woman innocent or guilty? He loves his wife. He loves his kid. He is also really attracted to this woman who's very sultry, and he's doing a good job. It sounds insane.
I mean, the look on his face when he's getting that hot wax poured on his nipples is
it's authentic. There's no justifying this, but I'm sure I will stand alone, and I'm happy to stand alone on this. But we all agree Willem Dafoe's a terrific actor. There's going to be no argument about that, right?
I'm so glad he's getting his what do you call it? His accolades, because every year, the past 3 years, The Florida Project, At Eternity's Gate, where he plays Vincent Van Gogh, is a fucking awesome movie on HBO right now, which is streaming free because of the what we're going through in the world. So absolutely see that. It flew under the radar a couple years ago. Then, of course,
Lighthouse. Oof. Yeah. Never seen Body of Evidence, so I got no comment.
It's available on the current playlist we're sharing. So if you want to try to watch it, it's there. I'm just going to throw that out there, Travis.
I don't know if I want to try and watch movies.
You don't want to.
I got a lot of time, but like lately, suddenly.
I'm saying everybody who's listening to this, your palette is wide open right now, so you could watch Body of Evidence and find a redeeming quality, a real showdown in the courtroom between Joe Mantegna and Willem Dafoe. It's powerful.
You know what? I'm going to bring that up to my wife Angie after dinner. You know, are you up for Body of Evidence this evening?
Okay, I know it's absurd. Anybody else thinking of a movie that's terrible? But man, somebody just really stood out. That you want to give this person credit for doing a hell of a job in just a train wreck, a disaster. Is there anything else?
Send us an email.
We would love to hear that. We are Cinema 9 Podcast, so it's Cinema 9, the number 9, at protonmail.com. Cinema 9 Pod. All right, so let's move into our next category, gentlemen. We are going to talk about, does it hold up? Now,
does it hold up?
There's so many films you could choose from, so we're just going to pick one that we all watched and we are familiar with recently. We feel like we can talk about it with some depth. It's True Romance, 1993.
Do you know who I am, Mr. Wally?
I give up. Who are you?
The Antichrist. You get me in a vendetta kind of mood. You tell the angels in heaven you never seen evil so singularly personified as you did in the face of the man who killed you. My name is Vincent Kirkcaldy. I work as counsel for Mr. Blue Lou Boyle, the man your son stole from. I hear you were once a cop, so I can assume you've heard of us before. Am I correct?
I've heard of Blue Lou Boyle.
I'm glad. Hopefully, that will clear up the how full of shit am I question you've been asking yourself. We're going to have a little Q&A. And at the risk of sounding redundant, please make your answers genuine. You want a Chesterfield?
No.
I have a son, my own, about your boy's age. I can imagine how painful this must be for you. But Clarence and that bitch whore girlfriend of his brought this all on themselves. I implore you not to go down that road with them. You can always take comfort in the fact you never had a choice.
Look, I'd like to help you if I could, but I haven't seen Clarence.
You see that? And smarts, doesn't it? You're slammed in the nose. Fucks you all up. Get that pain shooting through your brain, your eyes fill up with water. That ain't any kind of fun. But what I have to offer you, that's as good as it's gonna get. And it won't ever get that good again. We talked to your neighbors. They saw a Cadillac. Purple Cadillac. Clarence's purple Cadillac parked in front of your trailer yesterday. Mr. Wally, You seen your son?
I seen him.
I can't be sure of how much of what he told you, so in the chance you're in the dark about some of this, let me shed some light. That whore your boy hangs around with, a pimp, is an associate of mine. I mean, just pimping and other affairs. He works for me in a courier capacity. Well, apparently. A dirty little whore found out we're going to do some business because your son, the cowboy, in his flame, came in the room blazing and didn't stop till they were pretty sure everybody was dead.
What are you talking about?
Talking about a massacre. They snatched my narcotics, hightailed it out of there. Would have got away with it, but your son, fuckhead that he is, left his driver's license in a dead guy's hand.
You know, I don't believe you.
That's of minor importance. What is of major fucking importance is that I believe you. Where did they go?
On their honeymoon.
I'm getting angry, asking the same question a second time.
Quentin Tarantino written, Tony Scott directed. First off, before we get into Does It Hold Up, opening salvo, let's start with you, Eric. Do you think True Romance is a great film?
No, I think it's a really good movie that's a lot of fun. I was never blown away with it back in the early 90s, but the recent viewing was my best viewing yet for me. So I'm officially a fan. So I might buy it on Blu-ray.
All right. I would say that it is a really good movie. I would not say it's a great movie, but I do think it is. It's an important movie in a way because I think it kind of like prepares people for the Tarantino turn and like his kind of contribution to cinema. And I think that it's a good story that's propped up by a ton of amazing performances that they do the heavy lifting.
It's a killer cast. The cast is without a doubt top notch. Gary Oldman, Christian Slater in his prime, and who is also he's bounced back well in Mr. Robot. I mean, Christian Slater is a good actor to me. I know he kind of went south and he got shit on for a while, Broken Arrow, and then things went way downhill from there by the time the 2000s rolled around. But
he got tased at Paris Hilton's house or something, and things went downhill. I hear.
Hasn't.
Who the hell hasn't been tased at Paris Hilton's house? That's a good point. But,
for me, it has like the Con Air effect going for it. What I mean by that is like Con Air is clearly not a good movie, but there's so many fun actors in it and like fun performances that once it's on, you can't shut it off. And True Romance is clearly better, but it's got the same thing going on. You know, you can't wait for that next scene to come because of that great cast.
Yeah.
When I was younger, we really loved this movie. I remember, we're all been friends for a long time. We've known each other forever, and there were friends. Me and Guile loved this movie. We used to do the scene between Christopher Walken and Dennis Hopper in the trailer, which is a great
scene.
That's what I want to kind of get into. I think it's really good writing because it seems honest, but it's clearly, inappropriate. It's not holding up well. It's obviously taking offense to, they talk about black people and Italians in a very negative way. And I'm just wondering, do we have to view this as a negative, like a social commentary now, or can writing be authentic if someone believes that's how like a certain group of people would be talking? Because there are racist people out there, and there are people who speak this way.
Well, I would argue that yeah. I mean, I think that's what's really happening there, and I know that like Dennis Hopper, for instance. I guess we're kind of getting into that early, but that's okay. I know that Dennis Hopper, that he felt good about the performance for exactly the reasons that you said, that he felt like it was just the way that people talked, or some people talked. It was the way this character talked, and that's authentic feeling. On the other hand, like, this is a movie where a dude gets shot in the head and gets up and goes for a walk immediately afterwards. How much realism do we actually have to have? So, I mean, that being said, I do think it is amazing writing. It is a pivotal scene. Like, it is something else. But like, I think it's good that we have mixed. You know, I think it's good that it doesn't sit as well with us now as it did like in 1993 or 1992, I should say. No, it was 93 or 92.
It was 93. You had 93. Your gut instinct was right. Yep.
I mean, it's Tarantino, and it's that scene is one.
That's what I'm getting to. Yeah, in the Tarantino universe, we all know how he's become famous now for his use of the N-word in all his scripts and stuff. How does that fit in?
I mean, during the movie, you've got the cops referring to Italians as Goombas. You've got Patricia Arquette's character saying that she straight up doesn't like Persians. So there's a lot of racial epithets and that sort of stuff in there, but that's always been Tarantino's excuse. This is how people talk. And for the most part, these are kind of, for the almost majority, kind of despicable characters. So it forces you to feel one way or another about them. So I think that makes it more interesting, like it or not. So
it's not a wholesome comedy. That's a great point. I mean, it's a raunchy, it's a violent film. It's a classic. I mean, it's not directed by Tarantino, but it's got that Tony Scott, the showdowns with the blood and the shooting. I mean, the spoiler alerts, by the way. I mean, if you were listening to this podcast and we have to say spoiler alert, you should assume there's going to be spoilers because we're talking about films. Right. But
it's a 27-year-old movie.
Exactly. Spoiler alert on a 27-year-old film. But I think this is you guys think it's a good movie? You think it's an entertaining movie? I think it's a great film. I've always felt that way. I guess maybe it's nostalgic. Maybe I'm putting too much of myself into it, but I love this film. I think it's so entertaining. The dialogue is it's quick, fast-paced. Obviously, there's inappropriate comments, people who are scumbags in this movie, so that's part of the dialogue. Eric makes a good point that this is a movie chock full of scumbags. I mean, Gary Oldman's character is he's a huge scumbag, and so is Blue Lou Boyle, the alleged, the infamous Blue Lou Boyle. All these people are pieces of shit. So, well, I don't have a problem with that. I just think it's a fun movie, and I think it's a great movie. I do.
Well, how should we go about talking about it? Should we talk about some of these characters? Should we talk about the plot linearly? Should we talk about how it was made? Like, what do you guys think?
Well, we can do anything you like. If you have some comments, Travis, you can go any direction you want. But
okay, well, I do have some stuff I looked up just at a glance that I thought might be of interest to folks. For instance, this script for True Romance comes from another script written by Roger Avery, who you may be familiar with as a co-writer of Pulp Fiction. He wrote Killing Zoe, and he wrote a couple other movies.
Directed Rules of Attraction, which is one of my favorites.
Rules of Attraction.
Yeah, he wrote and directed Rules of Attraction. That's what I was trying to look for, yeah. So he wrote a script that was basically kind of an homage to Badlands and gave it to Tarantino when they were both working together at a video store, the famous video store that they worked at together, and told him, like, to make it better. And Tarantino, like, drastically reworked it. And to the point that Roger Avery didn't even really recognize it anymore. But when Tarantino reworked it, he also rewrote it where he wrote in, like, whereas Clarence and Alabama are traveling across country, Clarence, who was clearly like a proxy for Tarantino, is writing his own screenplay. And that screenplay, like, he's reading bits from that to Alabama. And the movie that he wrote ended up being really long. But the movie that Clarence wrote is Natural Born Killers. And that's like a fantasy of Clarence Worley's, and I just thought that was really fascinating. And then at the end of the movie, to jump to that, Roger Avery was brought back to do the rewrite at the end where Clarence ends up surviving.
Yeah, that bummed me out. I thought he should have died, and that would have been fine. But that's classic. Like, I almost feel like there's got to be some studio interference. Or I know that he rewrote it, as you say, but I still feel like there's a studio hand in there saying, "Hey, let's have him live."
Well, it was Tony Scott's call. It was Tony Scott's call, and he very much he claimed it wasn't a commercial thing, that he just was very much wanted them to have like a happy ending, that he liked the characters and stuff.
What about you, Eric?
Well, if you've ever seen Badlands, it's a fucking amazing movie by Terry Malick in the 70s, Marty Sheen, Sissy Spacek, and this is pretty much you could almost call it a loose adaptation of it, because the score is extremely similar. There's opening narration that's extremely similar to Sissy Spacek's in Badlands, and it's a cross-country crime spree. So you add in some of the facets of Tarantino, and it kind of comes off as a loose remake. Yeah, I mean, $50,000 script, Tarantino's first, sold to the studio. Most, like, it's like the minimum amount of money you can give to a screenwriter from like the WGA. But you know, I'm so glad that they took a chance. And I think the real marvel of the script is the fact that, having just read the original script yesterday in preparation for this episode, so little has changed from script to screen, and that is unheard of in Hollywood. So that just goes to show you what a unique talent this is, you know, like it's not.
Especially for Tarantino, like writing that on spec, like that's pretty amazing. And then Tony Scott told him, like, I want to direct both of these movies, and he was like, you can do one, you pick one, and he picked True Romance. And like, so that's pretty ballsy. That's pretty ballsy too, right there. He could have just made his $100,000, but instead he took that $50,000 and put that towards making Reservoir Dogs. And the Reservoir Dogs come out like a year before True Romance, and so like it does really well. And all of a sudden, that's partly why all these actors start coming out of the woodwork. It's not just Tony Scott's friends; it's people that like are impressed by Tarantino and want to like get involved.
Well, there's a ton of actors in this movie that are going to break out. I mean, you got Gandolfini kind of getting a little bit of a role in this. He plays a important role in the film and gets solid lines. You got Brad Pitt, who's sitting on the couch. He's going to be Brad Pitt in a few years. Really, right after this, he's going to break out with Legends of the Fall and so on. So there's so many great actors in this film that it's hard for me not to enjoy it. And Bronson Pinchot kind of steals the movie, in my opinion.
Steals it. It's so funny,
right?
I mean, he's hilarious, but also like he does a great job. That elevator scene where he really thinks his head's going to get blown off. That's some of the that's like John Turturro in Miller's Crossing, Listen to Your Heart kind of moment.
Oh yeah,
like it's like it's like really sincere groveling.
Well, I mean, you know, it's Tony Scott, and in my opinion, this is his best film, and he is like a 80s cokehead, testosterone fueled, mega maniacal like maniac, right? And everything he's known for is on display here in a really good way. You know, it's absurd, it's funny, it's sweet, it's offensive, romantic, it's dumb, it's fun, and it all works. Unlike a lot of his other stuff that is just popcorn trash, in my opinion. So.
Popcorn trash. Boy, we love the phrase. We should have called the podcast Popcorn Trash. That's actually now that I realize that.
I do think that True Romance is the best Tarantino script directed by someone other than Tarantino. I'll definitely think that.
What else would be the running? Is there anything else that
Natural Born Killers and From Dusk Till Dawn.
Right.
Oh God, I saw that in the theater. God, that was so lame. I thought that was gonna be so much fun, and then it just went downhill pretty quick. But some people love Dusk Till Dawn, so what do I know?
I used to. It doesn't really hold up.
It doesn't hold up. We'll do that on the next episode, guys. Oh boy. So Bronson Pinchot is amazing in this film. In terms of some of the best performances and things that stand out, is there one scene in particular that stands out to you guys? We'll start with Eric. Is there an area in terms of an actor's performance or scene or anything specifically that you think is just the highlight of this film?
Okay, well, the one scene that stands out for me is with Alabama and James Gandolfini when he's just annihilating her in that hotel room. That is a difficult scene for me to watch, like in a negative way. I think that should have been trimmed down so much, and it gets to the point where it's just really gross, offensive exploitation, in my opinion. And we can get into the whole Tarantino violence against women thing, but that is just a really hard scene for me. And I think it's pretty fucking gross. You know, even though, you know, she gets her redemption and all that, I think it just goes a little bit too far. It's difficult for me.
I agree that it's a difficult scene. It's not helped by the fact that, like, I learned, for instance, that during that she was having trouble with that scene, and Tony Scott asked her if she wanted some help getting into the right headspace, and she said yes, and he slapped her across the face.
What?
That's not great.
The persuader.
The persuader. Yeah, she asked for it a second time, apparently, like voluntarily, but the first time it was a surprise. So that's pretty weird. But I will say this about that scene, because to be honest, it was going to be the scene that I was going to talk about too. We have that scene, I think, to thank for James Gandolfini's amazing career, because that scene was supposed to go, because that scene was supposed to go, had been cast for Tom Sizemore. And Tom Sizemore was like, yeah, I'll do it, blah, blah, blah. And then, like, as he got closer to the actual thing, he was like, I don't want to do this. I don't want to throw this woman around. Like, I'm not comfortable with this. So he asked to be Cody instead. And Tarantino said, okay, well, now I got to find, someone for this. And Sizemore knew Gandolfini personally from, like, a New York acting school or something. So this is, like, what puts Gandolfini in the scene. And I remember as a kid seeing this movie, and for one, feeling like I had seen Gandolfini before. Like, he seemed familiar to me, but he was not. I'd never seen him in anything else. But he just had, like, such a commanding presence. And for two, I remember also, and I still feel this way, like, this movie is just an ocean of incredible actors in, like, the prime of their careers. And then this fucking guy just strolls in and steals the entire show. When he talks about how when he kills people, he just does it to see their expression change, I believe him. And it's terrifying. So good. Yeah. Yeah. Just, I mean, that, and of course, Drexel would be my other choice.
Yeah, I think when he goes into Drexel's lair and has the showdown there, and he doesn't really know what he's doing, and it's very obvious he doesn't have a clue what he's doing, even to Drexel. I love that scene. Gary Oldman transforms. Gary Oldman, he won an Academy Award for playing a chubby Winston Churchill in makeup, but I would take this performance any day of the week. I'd say what you will about it. It's certainly it's a guy who has no clue. It's appropriation because he thinks he's black, but they're being very obvious about that. So it's not like a secret. Yeah. That's the role. He accepted the role rather quickly from what I've gathered in my limited research. He's like, oh, that sounds ridiculous. A guy who's a pimp and thinks he's black, a white guy, I'll do it. So he did it. And I love that scene. The Alabama and James Gandolfini scene is, I can understand why you feel that way, Eric, but I think, she comes through in the end. She really gets beat up, and that happens. It's horrible. This is an extreme case of someone getting really beat up and his hair gets lit on fire with the hairspray, the classic movie hairspray lighter
ultra
thing.
Violence.
Yeah, it's very ultra violent, but she comes out on top, and obviously she's very beat up. But it shows the sacrifice that her and Clarence Worley, they're willing to go through because they love each other so much. And it's very, 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 very over the top to show how much they love each other. But I always found some heart in that. And I know that may be the minority opinion, but that's how I feel.
I see that point for sure. I just don't think the character grows from that experience. In fact, I think after that scene, the character basically drops out of the movie and has nothing to do for the next maybe hour or so. So that's just my opinion. That goes along with Clarence too. I think the movie gets taken away from them right around that scene, and it's just handed to the cops. It's handed to Saul Rubinek. It's handed to Bronson Pinchot.
We got it. Oh yeah, we got to talk about Rubinek.
Let's do one thing at a time.
Fucking Ed, you killed.
I want to say something about Drexel real quick. Then let's get into Saul Rubinek, if that's okay.
Go ahead.
Because in my limited research, also I learned some fun things about that, which is that this was right around the same time that Oldman was doing Dracula, and it was all his call to have the dreadlocks, and he contacted like the wig maker from Dracula, and had her make or him. I guess I shouldn't be presumptive there. I don't know what their gender was, but anyways, had them make the dreadlocks. So that was his call, and the blind eye that he wears was actually one of the eyes that he wore at one point in Dracula as well. And the kicker is that whole sequence where he's shot in the testicles and whatnot, because can't have a Tarantino movie without somebody's dick getting blown off. For that whole sequence, his mother was there. Like he performed in front of his mother the whole time. She was on set.
Whoa, that's a real actor right there, folks.
Let's not leave out Michael Rappaport, because he's so awesome in this too. I forgot how good he was in this.
He's such a dick in real life now, because that's who he is. Like, he's this loudmouth dick in real life. But in that movie, you're right. He plays like it's such an innocent, like, oh boy, oh shucks. He really does. He's just trying to make his way in Hollywood with a really naive point of view. I think that's a good point. Underrated.
Supposedly, his character, like Clarence, is supposed to be somewhat of a stand-in for Tarantino himself.
Oh, that's meta, bro. Is that meta? What's meta?
I mean, that's what Tarantino has said in interviews and stuff. I don't know how meta that is.
Meta's a buzzword. I got to throw it in the podcast. So yes, guys, Saul Rubinek's performance. I can't believe I was almost going to forget about it. I mean, you little cocksucker. I love that. When he when he finds
So
out that
funny.
Elliot has betrayed him. It's so funny. But before that, he's just
treat you like a son.
yeah.
Take your
he's
SAG
riffing
card
the
and burn it.
car. It's so yeah, right. He's just riffing on the phone calls when he first talks to Claire. Everything. He's just riffing and having a blast with the role. He is
Hilarious.
such. It's clearly like
Joe
I think-
Silver slime.
exactly.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say Joe Silver. That's so funny because it's
Coke-fueled
very
Joe Silver slime.
exactly. They're
Supposedly,
clearly
Joel
trying
Silver
make
didn't
fun of him.
talk to Tony Scott for a while after that.
Yes. Yeah, I read that too. That has got to be true, man, because it's very blatant. They're not trying to hide it, but that's what makes it so great because they're trying to be honest about what Hollywood is, and some of the violence may be fake, but the Saul Rubinek role seems legit. Is there any other comments besides his amazing lines and his really? Saul Rubinek's had a lovely career as a character actor, but this is hands down my favorite Saul Rubinek role, and I've been searching for something to meet it ever since.
I would say that he definitely steals the show, kind of like Gandolfini does. Again, like yeah, especially from once I will say once Alabama's beat up, and then you have Christian Slater's kind of not doing as much work. Yeah, he does kind of steal the show towards the end of the movie. Rubinek does, and he has like the most quotable lines. And again, like he just kind of comes in and owns this movie, and he's just like, between Walken and all these other amazing actors, and here's fucking Saul Rubinek is like, yeah, I'm going to be like one of the most memorable people in this movie.
Eric?
Yeah, I mean, look at the standoff at the end, Mexican standoff or whatever you want to call it. It's mobsters, okay? It's it's the cops, and it's these filmmakers, and they're all armed, ready to go. It just shows you like it's clearly like a fantastical film, right? I mean,
exactly.
This is the world we live in, but it's just so funny how they equate these fucking slimeball movie producers to these gangsters and these and the like. It's just so funny.
Yeah, again, I think that's Tarantino's because Clarence Morley works at a comic book store, kind of like Tarantino worked in a movie store, and like he's got he's loveless and nerdy, but wants to be heroic and cool, and he's trying to get his foot in the door in the Hollywood scene. So like all of this kind of it's just very autobiographical, I think.
I would be interested to see like a female perspective on this, because the Alabama character you can easily dismiss as this ornamental vestigial character, but I think she does a lot for it, and I think it makes the ending a little bit more sweet that she gets to have a family at the end. But I would be interested to see that original ending when she's got to grow from her own experiences as this decorative thing, and then go into her own. So would be interested in some other perspectives on that character as well.
Well, she definitely brings her A game. This is one of my favorite performances of Patricia Arquette's. Next to, I love her in Flirting with Disaster. That's like a personal favorite of mine. But she is naive, just like Clarence and just like Rappaport's character. They're all. I mean, she was desperate to just get away from her life in Alabama. Who knows? We don't know the whole backstory, but she's such an innocent creature who is a loving creature, and she gives that vibe so well. And she's willing to do anything to keep that love, and I love that about her character. And none of us are female; we're all guys with cocks, so we can't speak to. Yeah, I just want to get that clear, just in case anybody didn't know. But I think it's one of the better performances of a really heavy cast of great performances.
I think she's great too, and I think it's definitely like a breakout performance for her. And also, I think Alabama's from Florida. She says, "I'm not what they call Florida trash or Florida
that's
white
right.
trash."
Shit. She's probably on the Florida Alabama line down there in the Panhandle. Yeah, you guys watch that show on MTV called Floribama?
Nope.
Oh, okay, me neither. I just killed the show. Look at me.
Yep,
all right. Okay, so bottom line, True Romance. True Romance is a great film, in my opinion. The other guys think it's fun, entertaining, a good film. Tremendous performances. Is there anything we're leaving out? Eric, I'll start with you. Is there anything we've left out with this incredible movie, in my opinion?
I think it absolutely holds up. Structurally a little bit sloppy, but it gets away with it just because it's so fun to watch. It's a film about movies. It's a fantasy, okay? It's written obviously through the lens of Quentin Tarantino's own fantasies, living in LA. And I think the Clarence character, takes us through this odyssey of Hollywood misfits and quote unquote gangsters that aren't, they don't act like real people. They act like these facsimiles from movies. Okay. So if you take it on its own merit and just have fun with it, I think it's absolutely worth another watch.
Travis?
Well, I would agree. I think it holds up really well. I don't know that it doesn't resonate with me quite the same way as it did 30 years ago, but that's probably a good thing. I do think it's a really solid film with just standout performances. I think it's a lot of fun. I think it's got one of the weirder kind of scores, Hans Zimmer, like weirdly upbeat score that's totally inappropriate to the last 30 seconds of the movie. Is fun. I like that it's set in Michigan, and Dennis Hopper says to go to the party store at one point. That makes me happy.
Yeah.
And my one big complaint is that if I'm ever in a bathroom and 50 million guns are going off right outside of me, I'm not going to just pop my head out for a quick look-see.
That's a good point. Val Kilmer is not even mentioned by us, plays Elvis in the bathroom with Clarence every time. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. That reminds me of another point I was going to make, that you'll notice that the movie is really lacking in Elvis songs. The only Elvis song that makes it into the entire movie is Val Kilmer singing "Heartbreak Hotel," because that's one of the few songs that the estate doesn't strictly have the rights to. So, yeah, that's kind of weird. They get away with it, though. They throw Big Bopper in there instead and that kind of stuff. You don't even notice.
Eric, you're the resident Elvis expert on this show. Any commentary on the Val Kilmer performance or the inclusion of Elvis in the movie?
I applaud Val Kilmer for not fighting with Tony Scott, who he worked with on Top Gun, to say, I'm a fucking big deal. I was already Jim Morrison in The Doors. Okay, I'm a name actor, and yet I'll be out of focus. I'll play this mentor role. I'll come in for 2 days, So that's classic Kilmer, in my opinion. I love it.
It was uncredited too, wasn't it? Or no?
No, he's in the credits. I believe. Yeah, he's
as
in
mentor.
the opening.
That's right. Yeah,
as Val Kilmer, but you're like, wait, where's Val Kilmer in this movie? But then you realize he plays a great Elvis, a simple, out of focus Elvis. And I thought that was
Elvis.
Yeah, understated, unfocused. Any other uns? No. So the bottom line is, we generally think this holds up. There's a few critiques. We've made our points, but there's no doubt that it holds up as an entertaining film. Do we agree with that?
Absolutely.
I mean, in the early 90s, yes, it is Quentin Tarantino. But think of the slew of films just like this that came out. Killing Zoe, 8 Heads in a Duffel Bag, 2 Days in the Valley. All of those. Remember all that shit? This is the only one, in my opinion, that still absolutely holds up, unironically.
I completely agree with you. It's definitely Tony Scott's best movie, in my opinion. The Fan is good, but we don't need to go there.
Did he do Enemy of the State? That's pretty good.
Yeah,
but it's the exact same ending. The damn shootout. That's what pisses me off about Enemy of the State.
It really is the exact same ending. Even with Tom Sizemore.
Right. It would have been the same movie if Tom Sizemore was originally in it, like you said.
I forgot about that. That's pretty bad.
But yeah, I love this movie. I watch it often. Like, even though I was glad that we brought it up, because I've always locked in on this film. I watch it a couple times a year. So I'm glad that it still holds up, and I hopefully think that it will hold up for another 20, 30 years. But we would love to get your feedback. So please hit us up at Cinema9Pod. That's the number 9. That's on Twitter. That's on Facebook. What's the Facebook, Eric? Is it Cinema 9 Podcast? Or?
It's Cinema 9 Pod, FB, colon, back. We'll put it in the show notes here. We get a host.
Yeah, we'll put it in the show notes. You're right. Yeah. So hit us up with emails if you have any comments on this wonderful film, this controversial but yet highly entertaining film, True Romance. Cinema9Pod@protonmail.com. So, guys, as we wrap up the show here, we wanted to take a moment to share some quarantine films, some films that can help you get through these tough times. Most of us are locked down, unless you're an essential employee fighting the good fight out there, which we all appreciate, and we wish you all good health. Let's talk about a film or two. Yes. We hope you have money to survive on. We want to talk about a film or two that is going to get you through this quarantine. Travis, can we start with you? Do you have something for us?
I do have something loaded up, but I kind of laughed when you said that, because I don't know if this is going to help you get through the quarantine. I don't know if it's going to help you get in the right headspace or anything.
No. Yeah, just have entertaining, anything enjoyable.
Yeah, the movie I watched most recently that I thought was pretty fantastic was, and I was actually texting Eric during this, so this won't surprise him. I watched Color Out of Space yesterday. And, you know, I'm a big Nick Cage fan. I love Mandy, and to see, and if you're a fan of Mandy, this is along the same kind of lines, only a lot more restrained. And it's just a really, it's just like, it actually scared me. Like, it's a movie that actually, like, it's pretty rare I get scared and like kind of freaked out by movies, but I got pretty freaked out by this movie. Nick Cage gets to go full Nick Cage, and it's not in a way that doesn't make sense. It's totally like, it works in the film in a really good way. And it's just probably the best H.P. Lovecraft adaptation I think I've seen. So I would definitely recommend that.
Wow. Color Out of Space. I've definitely not seen that. I will put it on my list and check that out. I don't love Nick Cage like you do, but I will definitely give it a shot because I want to have fun. I want to be scared during my quarantine. I want to feel uncomfortable.
Increase your anxiety during quarantine. Why not?
Eric, what about you? Any quarantine suggestions to entertain us?
Yeah, we've been watching a lot of old movies, cozy old movies from back in the day. I got two I very, very highly recommend. Marnie is probably one of Hitchcock's most underrated films. 1963, he did it right after The Birds with Tippi Hedren. Don't read too much into the behind the scenes on this one because you'll find out what a sick asshole both Sean Connery and Alfred Hitchcock were.
Yeah.
But in terms of the film itself, this is really underrated. It's hypnotic, it's engaging, it's understated, it's offensive, but it's a really lurid, interesting character study with a great performance by Tippi Hedren, who I also think is a really underrated actress. That's Marnie. When it comes to underrated actresses, my other pick is The Misfits. This is a John Huston film from 1961 that is, every time I watch it, it gets better and better. It's about these cowboys in Nevada and this beautiful divorcee that comes into town and meets up with them. There's no real plot. They just kind of hang out. And Marilyn Monroe, this is an actress I don't think gets enough credit for her abilities. When you think of her, you think of the pinups and the dress under the subway grate. She was a really, really interesting and good actress, in my opinion. Films like this, and Niagara, and River of No Return, and Don't Bother to Knock. So I encourage you to step aside from the facsimile of this actress and check out some of her actual work, because it's impressive. And The Misfits is one of the best.
Wow. Marilyn Monroe can act. I'm gonna have to think about that for a while. I don't think she's not talented at all. I have not seen any of those films, and really I've not seen maybe more than the 7-Year Itch I saw once. I've not seen much of her films at all. So
She gets a bad rap for being in these silly, like really bubbly studio films that are just fluff. But
something like
a dramatic, stuff like that.
That's a good movie though.
But she gets a bad rap because of those studio fluff, but she's done some dramatic turns that are, worth checking out for sure.
Who's giving her a bad rap now? Like, just are people trash talking Marilyn Monroe?
I think they dismiss her as a pretty face, but I thought she was actually a really talented actress.
Like Tom Cruise. She's a real Tom Cruise.
Oh my God. I watched Magnolia the other night. God, he should have won the Academy Award for that.
It's on my list. I'm watching it soon.
I thought we were going to, I suggested that for does it hold up?
Okay. I would love to do
it next week.
That would be a good episode.
Let's do it next time.
Yeah, it'll be a long one then, because that's a long movie, but it's great.
Do it.
Okay, for me, this is going to be for the lightheartedness, just to have something to help you get through, a little popcorn. I watched That Thing You Do recently, and I really enjoyed it. It just kind of flows along. It's about bubblegum pop of the 60s, and Tom Hanks does a nice understated job. It's nothing crazy. It's just very simple. It's got solid music in it. It's all original music, but it's basically ripping off that music of the 60s, like the Supremes and things like that, what Motown did and what the Beatles did and all that stuff. I enjoyed it thoroughly. It's just simple, fun, lighthearted entertainment, and that song will get in your head and it will drive you crazy. I think he purposely did that because they play that song, that movie, at least 10 times.
The Wonders.
Yeah, the Oneaters. Yeah, right. It's Tom Everett Scott and company just screwing around. Ethan Embry just having a laugh. And
I'm so glad you brought that up, because the composer who wrote that song just passed away, I think, a few days ago.
Exactly.
And he did something else that was popular. Like, it slips my mind, but
Yeah.
rest in peace. Yeah.
Adam
definitely made
Schlesinger
a-
was his name.
Thank you.
He was in Fountains of Wayne. He
Fountains
was
of Wayne.
most known for the
Yeah, there you go.
Stacy's Mom song, which is that song from 03, which is, I think it's a satire song. But yeah, he did a lot of, besides that, he was working behind the scenes in commercial work and other films that I can't think of off the top of my head. But that's the reason I watched the film, Eric. So I'm glad you
great.
brought that up.
Well, rest in peace. I've never seen that
Yeah.
movie, though.
Never saw it?
Probably should. Never seen it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, you know,
I might.
I guess maybe we should have thought about movies that are available on streaming so it'd be more accessible. But I think a lot of people are renting movies right now anyway, so I stand behind it.
All right.
Okay, well, I think we've covered the bases here, gentlemen. This has been the intro episode of Cinema 9 Podcast. That's right.
We did it.
We did it. We got Eric Bransham and Travis Roy. Look how happy they are.
They can't see us.
There is video. Who knows? Yeah, you may never
Silent-wise.
see us. Yeah. Audio, of course. Any final comments before we go? Travis Roy.
Nothing. Stay safe. Stay at home.
Eric?
Stay home and send us an email. We'd love to hear from you so we can keep this going.
Beautiful. That's a great way to go on top. I agree. We're Cinema9Pod at protonmail.com. Cinema9Pod with the number 9. I'm Michael
Bye.
Govier. These are my friends. We love you. Stay safe. We'll talk to you soon.
Bye.